Protection Act and the local wetlands bylaw. And with dual missions, first to protect the wetland resources and second to serve our neighbors, many of whom are here this evening. Welcome all. We have a busy agenda, so let me explain some of the ground rules here. First, we're conducting this meeting entirely virtually on Zoom in accordance with ongoing regulations from the state. The meeting is being recorded, and we will conduct all of our voting by roll call. There will be opportunities for public participation. Because some of our fellow boards and commissions have been Zoom bombed recently, we are muting everyone except the commission members, and therefore you will have to hit, if you wish to speak when we're taking public comment or questions, if you wish to speak, you'll have to hit the Zoom hand icon and let us know that you want to say something. When you're recognized, please state your name and address or professional affiliation, whichever is appropriate, and keep your comments or questions to 2 minutes or less, please. I'm also going to ask everyone to please change their name if it's not their actual first and last name. So if your phone number is displayed or your initials, would you take a moment, right-click, and hit rename and give us your first and last name, which is another precaution against being disrupted by Zoom bombers. Thanks. Sorry to have to put everybody through that. Next, we have a chat function in Zoom, but please don't use that for any real questions or comments about the substance of our hearing. Please reserve it for technical IT kinds of questions because it doesn't become part of the permanent record. I think that's about it for preliminaries, so I will call the roll of commissioners and we'll get underway. Arnold Oyola.
Present.
David Lumsden.
Present.
Marty Farmer.
Present.
Jim Hoffman.
Present.
Gordon Turner.
Here.
And who else? So Henry Ottinger is absent with permission on Chincoteague Island, where digital connections are at a premium, but there's lots of wild ponies. If you're interested in that, contact Henry directly. All right, if there are no other preliminaries, we'll get underway. I'll call us into public hearing to take up notices of intent, the first of which is 19 Proctor Street, Mass DEP 39-950. Applicant David Tolliver, proposed installation of a seasonal ramp and float at a single-family home. Evan, are you? Yes, I see you. If you are you going to speak tonight? I'm guessing we can unmute you and let you do that.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay. Thank you, commissioners. Evan, a veteran of DeRosa Environmental, here representing David and Mona Talaferro for the proposed seasonal ramp and float. Since the last meeting, the commission had asked for additional information, which we have since provided. And if you'd like, I can go through the package that we submitted.
It'd probably be a good idea to highlight the main points. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. All right. So at the last meeting, some of the commission members shared concerns about how close the float was to the property line. So since then, we have added the 20-foot setback from the property line and have added that to the plan. So or to the plan. So we are maintaining a 20-foot setback from the property line. We have added a mitigation plan to compensate for the 8 square feet of impact that's proposed within the no disturbance zone. That is from the granite block. And so we are providing 16 square feet of mitigation plantings in which we'll install 3 serviceberry or shadbush single stem trees to compensate or to mitigate for that impact. I did want to reiterate that the ramp is designed with through flow decking material, which allows adequate sunlight to the vegetation beneath. And the float has also been designed to maintain 32 inches of clearance above the mud flat, which is recommended in the DEP guidance for small docks and piers, and that protects shellfish habitat as well as allows light for any vegetation on the mud flat. We have been in contact with Tom Baker of Manchester Mooring as well as Ramsey Marine, who both have confirmed that their installation and decommissioning of the seasonal structure will not impact the salt marsh. They are able to come in on a flat bottom barge with a crane on top that can just lift the ramp away and then float it and store it offsite for the seasons along with the float. We've also provided an alternatives analysis at the request of the commission, in which we have discussed alternative locations, alternative sizes, and I can go through that too if you'd like. And then we provided some annotated photos to kind of help illustrate, because this is kind of a unique area in which there is a certain section that has the deepest water. And so in order to utilize that to maximize the amount of the float is on the water and to minimize the disturbance to the mud flat, that's the location that we're trying to keep everything. So here's the revised plan. Here's the 20-foot setback that we've maintained. Here's the area that the 16 square feet that will add the shadbush to. Do you want me to go through the alternatives a little bit, or?
What do other commissioners want to hear those?
I don't need to.
Okay.
I don't need to. I read it.
Okay, great.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, that's if you want it, ask. Okay, I think we can. So let's get to questions or comments from the commission. Arnold.
Sorry. Thank you for the updates. I read through the package, and of course the skids are maintained, and that's really my primary comment and concern is that we have added the skids, and the proposal is to keep the same 10 by 20, and the original, I guess, the 60-foot aluminum walk. And it really comes down to load bearing capacity of the mud flat. So we want to minimize the area, obviously, of disturbance, while supporting that pull and distributing the weight on the mud flat. So what I couldn't see in the package is basically how did we arrive that a 6 by 2 plank along the length is sufficient without, of course, going overboard, right? We want to minimize surface while ensuring that we don't get disturbed. We minimize the disturbance to the surface and avoid that potential bit breakthrough or shear breakthrough to the mud that may even lead to suction or the flat getting stuck initially as the tide comes in, which may disrupt the surface. So that's just the detail that I couldn't see in the package of how did we arrive at those particular dimensions to try to minimize area while addressing the load bearing capacity of the substrate of the mud flats, essentially. Everything else I'm fine with, and I went through the explanations of the functional length and the location of the float, etc. So, but that's really what comes down to. How do we arrive at the 6-inch 6 by 2?
Sure. So I did kind of discuss it. from what I gathered from the contractor, Ramsey Marine, that a 40-foot length ramp would also be feasible. However, because we're trying to get to this deeper area, we opted to go for the 60-foot. Anything longer than 60 foot would need support piles to help with that load, which would have more impact. So that's why we went with the 60-foot. And in his description to me, the ramp will sit on top of the float surface. And so the float supports the load of the ramp. A smaller float would require the ramp to go even further towards the middle of the float to help with that load. So that's kind of where we came with the proposed dimensions of the ramp and the float, so that, you know, we could maximize the functionality of the float while being able to still support the weight of that ramp.
All of that I think was very, very well explained. Thank you. It's essentially, we have a particular dock. It's built out of certain materials, hardware, wood, etc. Floats itself. It may absorb some moisture over time. And so there's a certain core mass or weight to that dock, plus the walk. But I think the majority is going to be from the dock itself in its dimensions. And that's going to sit on the surface, which currently, per design, it's going to sit on 2 long skids that are, I assume, have the length, it appears at the length of the dock, 20 by 6 inches wide. And so the question is basically, have we considered, or what is the consideration that those particular dimensions are going to be sufficient to prevent the float with all its weight from sinking into the mud and sinking into the mud flats?
I see.
That's really,
Yeah.
So everything above that, I think I'm personally, I'm fine with the distance, the 32 inches and so on. It's really, how do we arrive at those particular skids? Yeah.
So I think that just comes down to the experience that Ramsey Marine has had with similar floats in their design. And I'm not a dock designer myself, but I think I rely on Ramsey and trust Ramsey to provide information or a design that would resolve, you know, the float sinking into the mud flat, because that's why we added the skids in the first place, right?
Correct. Yeah, with the standoffs.
Yeah.
My opinion, very, very likely it would have sunk in.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was my understanding as well. I spent a few minutes with the homeowners this afternoon and got a little more perspective on it. The reason for the 60-foot long, unusually long ramp gangway is so that they can get out to what they perceive to be deeper water. And there's some evidence from their photographs that the water is a bit just beyond where the float will land, although the difference is measured, I think, in inches. It's not dredged, and there's no drop off. But the 60-foot length then dictates the minimum size of the float, because the ramp is going to roll on the float, and a smaller float, it would be largely consumed with rollers for the ramp. And that determines the weight that they have to try to keep from sinking into the mud. So it all begins with a choice to try to get as close as possible to what the consultant has generously described as open water. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Jim, please.
Yeah, well, I think it's not, open water, and I think it's pretty clear that the raft will sit on the mud for some period of time. And I thought that when we were talking about the calculation for mitigation, we had added the 10 square feet of the skids and added that to the amount. So it would have been closer to 30 square feet, not 10.
Bethany, was there a ruling we had to follow from DEP about whether to count the direct impact of the skids on the mud?
It would be generally just with like historic practices too. It would be, sorry, a comment came through. It would just be about the granite block impact due to the ramp and float being seasonal.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Just in response to that comment in chat, we've requested that everyone please make sure that your first and last names are reflected in the name you have on Zoom call here. So if you're using your initials or your phone number, iPhone or something like that, please put your first and last name. We need to be on some guard against Zoom bombing. Thank you. Martha.
Yes, on this image, just at the far left, if you bring that white box over to so it's a little more visible, you see that the ramp is connecting, it looks like, to a hinge on the side of the float. And I believe as it's described now, it will actually sit on top of the float a couple of feet in order to not tip the float down into the mud so directly as it would if they use the conformation that's shown here. Do I have that correct, Evan? It's supposed to actually sit on the top with rollers, not be hinged at the edge of the float. Okay. So the image has not been corrected, but the description has been.
Correct. Thank you.
And I also want to mention that Tommy Baker is really good at what he does. I'm sure he can get it on and off at lunar high tides, as he says. So with his barge, but it is, I guess the point that Arnold was making is, how do we know this will not sink into the mud? The reality is that it depends on the mud. There are different kinds of mud, and things sink more in others. So I assume they've actually, and not just assume, I know, they have attempted to assess the type of mud that it's going to be going into. So if it doesn't work, what is the mitigation they have to do to fix it?
We would have to put that, I think, in a condition, a special condition, perpetual, attached to the order. And we have not done that before. But I take your point that no one can guarantee just from kind of historical practice that a particular float and particular skids are not going to sink into particular mud.
Flotation will help a lot to keep it from not.
Thank you. That's reassuring. Jim?
I believe that the harbor master has to approve these every year. So I think if there was an issue, he could flag it.
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. Well, that makes conditioning it rather easy. One of the reasons I favor smaller floats in these unusual drop it in the mud situations is that they will tend to inhibit the temptation to park a large vessel next to the float and have it ground out at low water. One of the other things we observed when I was talking to the Tollivers this afternoon is that one of their neighbors has two rather large outboard motorboats, and they're each tied up and they're each grounding out. And that is a violation of the conditions we put on, but in practical terms, I think it would be smarter, better practice for us to design the project, help or encourage them to design the project so it isn't so tempting to just tie up your boat and leave it there. All right. Any other comments from the commission? Questions about the public? Any comments or questions on a gangway and floating dock at 19 Proctor Street. Remember, I'd like you to raise your hand using the icon at the bottom or wherever on your Zoom screen. I'm not seeing any. Anybody going once, going twice? All right, commission ready to vote on closing this hearing?
Yes,
Yes.
Can I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we close the hearing on Mass DEP 039-0950, 19 Proctor Street.
Great.
Second.
Thank you. And I believe everybody is eligible to vote on this one. So how do you vote? Marty,
Yay.
Jim,
Approve.
Gordon,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
and I'm
David.
missing David. Too obvious.
That's a yes.
Thank you. And the chair is a yes. So that's unanimous. Shall we move to special conditions for this project?
Yes, I can pull, I have it up already.
Okay. While Bethany's getting that, I just want to note that I'm becoming more convinced that the proliferation of these kinds of floats and docks, which was unusual 10 years ago, I think, and is now much more prevalent as more of them pop up, requires us to think hard about how we're going to actually prevent impact and encourage proper usage of these. So I'd like us to have some discussion of that when we get to new and old business at the end of the meeting. All right, let's go to special conditions. The first is a pre-construction detailed construction work plan. Just shout out any comments for these. The second 25 is seasonal removal of the gangway and float, and also in storm-related hauling outward by the harbor master. Third is that any and all spills be properly cleaned up and concrete removed from the site. Third is at no time will any motor vehicles be allowed on the coastal beach.
Little flat, maybe.
And that means for construction, no, is that what that pertaining to, not the
Yeah.
marine vessels? Okay. In case of a major storm event, the sites will be secured beforehand in such a way as to protect the beach.
Should I change it to tidal flat, you think?
The resources here are the tidal flat and the coastal bank, so yes,
Yeah.
27 and 28. 29 calls for a native species plan to be implemented as mitigation within the resources and buffers as shown on the approved plan. Is there a site for the mitigation on the plan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't notice that. Mitigation planning shall be monitored for 2 growing seasons, guarantee at least an 85% survivorship. That doesn't mean very much with 3 shrubs. How about
100%.
How about 100%? Okay, and I would very much like to add a condition, that perpetual condition, that any marine vessel uses this float shall do so only when there's enough water for safe operation and shall not be left there to ground out. There it is. Watercraft shall not be allowed to ground out on the left side. Good. A proposed alteration requires express permission. Yes, the responsibility of the applicant owner to make realtors and subsequent owners aware of these perpetual conditions. I think you need an S on owners there. These conditions survive in perpetuity. And you maintain, the owner required to maintain and provide proof of service contract with a qualified marine contractor responsible for maintenance, remote seasonal float and gangway. Okay, so we have those 5 perpetual conditions, and one of the previous special conditions is also marked perpetual, right? Any
What was
comments
that?
or questions from the commission? Yeah, 25 is marked perpetual.
Right. 25 and I don't know why it's a weird font. Oh,
All right, so comments on this? Sorry?
oh,
Included as a continuing condition of perpetuity. Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry.
Continued in perpetuity.
yes. I can't think. I'm sorry. Can't spell when people watch. Okay.
If that's suitable to the commission, I'll hear a motion to issue her with these conditions.
So move, Steve.
Thank you, David. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Marty. All those in favor? David,
Aye.
Marty,
Aye.
Jim,
I,
Gordon,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
and I'll make that unanimous. All right. Thank you very much, Evan and Tolliver. This moves us to our second notice of intent. Same as 5 Kings Way, DEP file 39-951. Applicant Ryan McShear, owner Matthew Lewis. And because the delineations aren't completed yet, the applicant has requested continuation to our next meeting, which is, note carefully, September 8th,
Yes.
4-week interval because of election day.
Mhm.
So I'll move that we continue 39-951 till September 8th with the applicant's permission. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor? Arnold? We'll get back to you. Marty?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Arnold?
Aye.
Jim?
I,
Gordon?
Aye.
I'll make that unanimous. Which brings us to the third notice of intent, which is 0 Hill Street. There is now a DEP number, correct? Who's got the DEP number?
Yes, there is. I just have to pull it up. I'm sorry.
Okay. Didn't make it into our agenda. But let's put it in the record.
Mhm. The Mass TEP number for 0 School Street is 039-0953.
Thank you. The applicant is Jeffrey Engler. The owner is Andrew Brown. And we have, thanks to Bethany, we have obtained a co-chair Henry Ottinger and I believe is a more than adequate proposal for peer review from Ty and Bond. Has everyone on the commission had a chance to read that?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. And have the applicant had a chance to review it?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Scott Goddard here on behalf of the applicant. We have had a chance to review it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So that being the case, I would like any final discussion from the commission about this proposal. And then a motion to approve it.
I will speak up that that I looked at this proposal and the Weston and Sampson proposal, and they're relatively similar, but Ty and Bond include in what they're going to do a site visit to the spot, and that was absent from the other, and that alone made this one more more valuable to me, as well as the fact that it was less expensive.
Good point. Yeah, the other distinction that mattered to me was that Ty and Bond is attaching to hydrogeologists or
Yes,
geohydrologists. I can never remember which is right to the project. So they'll be able to examine the vernal pools and the habitat from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear a motion.
Well, I'll do it. I move that we accept the proposal for peer review from Ty and Bond.
The date on the proposal being
August 6th, 2026.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? David?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Arnold?
Aye.
Gordon?
I'm recused from this particular one.
And the chair is an aye. So that is unanimous by a vote of 5 in favor, 1 recused, and 1 absent. Good. Let me ask the applicant, are there anything new and or different that we should know about while we wait for the peer review to get spooled up?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. There isn't anything of substance other than what was already alluded to at the beginning of this meeting. The DEP did issue a file number. It's worth noting, I think, too, that DEP issued no technical comments on the application, which is probably worth noting that is quite remarkable relative to the size of this project. I work on many, many projects of this size, and I think this might be the first one that I've seen issue no technical comments from DEP. So I think that's a good indicator that DEP hasn't flagged any significant issues for consideration on the project.
Good. Thanks for putting that out. When did they issue the number?
I don't know what date it was.
Weeks ago. A couple days ago. This is Bethany, by the way.
Okay, so we may simply be looking at a decent interval for them to consider it and draft some things, but
It's possible, yes.
I take your point. If they had no comment, that's usually a positive sign from their standpoint. Okay. While we're on the subject, there's a couple of things which I thought would help us in our deliberations, which I'm sure you have submitted previously, your team has submitted either to our ZBA for those hearings or to the Housing Appeals Committee. One of them is a cut and fill analysis, which the ZBA has certainly received. These things are very hard to track down in the database because the titles in the database typically reflect the contents of each file. There'll just be a date or a name of Goddard on March 3rd or something like that. So if you could locate that for us, that would be appreciated. The other on my list is any initial plans, even if sketchy, that you had made as to how you're going to get water to the site and sewage away from the site, so we can know what's in store down the road if and when you file that separate NOI. I'm not sure what if anything you've submitted, but again, it's very, very difficult to retrieve it from a large pile of files in the ZBA folders.
Understood. So I heard the second comment was a request for any initial intel on water and sewer. Your first comment, however, sorry, was a little technically garbled from my end. If you could please repeat the request, I would appreciate it.
It's what cut and fill analysis, which the ZBA says was conducted.
Cut and fill analysis, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
you were able to
Okay.
analyze the total amount of removal. Comments or questions on other matters from other parts of this matter from the commission?
Steve, could you repeat that question again? Your voice is breaking up.
I'm going to shut off the video, David, in the hopes that that'll improve the appearance of the whole thing, plus make it easier to hear.
If it helps, Mr. Co-Chairman, I could try to recap what I believe the chairman was asking for. He was asking for some information that may have been available to the ZBA about cut and fill analysis on the site. And then secondly was, even if not finalized, preliminary conceptuals on water and sewer access for the site. And Mr. Chairman can correct me if I misspoke.
No, that's just perfect. All right, if there's nothing further from the commission on Zero School Street, let's open for public comment. Questions or comments from the public, please click your raise hand icon. I see Dennis Murphy. Please unmute and make a concise statement or question. Bethany, do you need to release the
Yeah, I
mute?
clicked him. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Attorney Dennis Murphy from Hill Law, and I'm appearing tonight on behalf of the Manchester Essex Conservation Trust. We submitted a rather lengthy position statement, and I'm not going to go over that tonight, but I would, in your communications with the Ty and Bond peer reviewer, suggest that there are some discrete topics for potential future meetings. And those include whether the plans, which the NOI plans are from May 2022, whether those are suitable for review. And this is a complete application. Also, the stormwater issues, including the mounding analysis, the vernal pool issues, including water budget, and there's a lot of detail that goes into analyzing the several certified vernal pools on the site. And finally, the cold water fishery that also impacts stormwater. The cold water fishery is a critical area which has significance under the Stormwater Standard 6 that requires some enhanced treatment and protections. That's because it's a cold water fishery. So I mention those things because I think some of the benefits of the tie-in bond, there may be different peer reviewers. I know that my group at the ZBA and at the HAC had different experts who gave testimony on each of these discrete issues. We've submitted that in writing. That hopefully gives everyone a head start on some of the issues that the commission will be grappling with. So I just wanted to offer those brief remarks, and I wouldn't look too much into the lack of comments from DEP at this point. It is a major project, probably one of the biggest ones the commission has seen, certainly has seen in a long time. And so I appreciate the care and effort that all of you will take to review these issues and understand them as the zoning board did and as the HAC later reviewed as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Murphy. We'll do our best. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, if the public is done, I would like to just circle back to some logistics on the peer review process before we close out the meeting, if we could.
Yes, go ahead.
So there's different ways commissions will often handle peer review, and I want to just find out what you would like for sort of ground rules on the peer review. And specifically, number one, we would like to be notified as the applicant's team as to when any site walks would be scheduled by peer review. But then secondly is, are you open to inviting open dialogue between the applicant's team and the technical peer review team? Or would you prefer to have all dialogue go through your commission or through your agent? I just want to make the process efficient and helpful. Some commissions welcome that openly, others are hesitant on that kind of communication.
Those are good questions, and we'll certainly include you in the scheduled site visit or visits. As for direct or communication directly or through our conservation agent, I would favor the latter, communication through the agent. But what do other commissioners think? Jim? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I agree with you, Steve. I do not like the open dialogue because it gets too pre-baked and we don't have a chance to hear all the issues, pro and con, in an open forum, which can generate other issues and ideas and concerns. So I feel it should all come through the Conservation Commission.
Okay, thank you. David?
I feel the same way. I have complete faith in Bethany's ability to take very thorough notes on any questions or discussion between the applicant and her, and communicate those back to our committee. And like Jim, I'm afraid that open communication among the members during these discussions can break down, get complicated, get off track, and cause confusion. So,
yeah,
single point.
Well, just a reminder, we will not be talking about substance among the commission members. So that would violate public meeting rule. But the question is, can the applicant answer questions from the peer reviewers directly and on the spot? And as I said, I prefer that go through the agent. Mark, your hand is up.
Yeah. So kind of what you mentioned, Steve, is typically how I've handled large projects such as this through planning boards, is that peer reviewer will submit questions, comments, requests for additional information, but they'll come through our office. And then we'll submit that, forward that to Scott or his team. and try and have the rest of the information to facilitate the review, but it'll come through the office so that it won't be direct back and forth without the the ability to have it on record, what they requested, how it got answered, so that the commission will have all the information for the next meeting and why certain adjustments or changes or responses were made. So it does come through the office would be the best way of doing everything.
Yeah. Good. Agreed. So unless there's a serious argument to the contrary, that's how we'll proceed. And that'll also preserve a record of these comments back and forth. All right. Anything else from the public before we move on? Let me just say thank you for the attendance and attention you're paying to this. It's obviously worth every person's attention. Let's move on to the next notice of intent, which
Wait,
is
you
19.
have to continue it.
You're right, we have to continue. Can I hear a motion to continue this to September 8th?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Arnold. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor? David?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Jim?
I,
Arnold?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Gordon is recused and Henry is absent.
Yeah, I suspect if
Good.
there's no movement by the peer reviewer by the 8th, I think it could be reasonably expected that the applicant would request a continuance when that date is near approaching. So we'll be on the lookout for any correspondences from Ty and Bond.
Okay. Well said.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Now we move to, yes, thank you, Scott. We move to 195 Summer Street, DEP number 39-952. The owner and applicant are 195 Summer Street Realty Trust. These are proposed site improvements associated with an existing estate home, which was constructed around the turn of the 19th century. This is a existing non-conforming site, as the 2.5-story structure and associated features are located within the 50-foot no build and the 30-foot no disturb zone. Who is here tonight from Hancock, I think?
Yes, good evening. For the record, my name is Caitlin White. I am a wetland scientist from Hancock Associates. We have a decent amount of the project team on the call. We also have John Pate, our landscape architect, the property owner, Thomas Frank, as well as a representative from B&H Custom Homes. I couldn't tell if it was Greg or not. And I still cannot tell, but we have a representative from B&H Custom Builders as well. Okay, so I'll just introduce you briefly to the site. If you all can just confirm that you can see the site plan.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So the home is a historical home that was constructed in the turn of the 19th century, so it is existing non-conforming. We do have structures within your setback zones. The resource areas that are affecting the scope of work here is Coastal Bank, which I have here highlighted in blue just to make it clear because we have a lot going on this plan. Projecting off that, we have your local setbacks in yellow and orange, and then the 100 in purple back here. We also have FEMA flood zone VE down here at elevation 23. There are also conservation restrictions on site. We have received approval from the trustees for this scope of work and have submitted that to along with the application. So this project started with interior renovations that kind of built out and have become exterior renovations, which now come under your jurisdiction. This is just our erosion control plan. I just want to start off by showing you where the erosion control line is. It's this dark line here, all the way along the coastal bank. And so that we have stake straw wattle and silt fence proposed, as well as a construction fence, which is already in place. I'm just going to switch to our site plan. Okay, and I'll start along the western side of the property. So This right here is an existing structure on an existing foundation that we are proposing to rebuild in kind with the staircase going here. As you move along the property, we have a proposed addition here that is over an existing foundation, aside from a bay window, which is right here, this dark line, which is the only expansion for this addition. Over on this side of the house, we have an existing porch that is proposed to be enclosed, along with the steps to be replaced. Moving along the property, we have a paver walkway, a concrete and cobblestone parking area here that are all going to be temporarily removed in order to allow for an HVAC conduit line shown here. These will all be replaced in kind post-construction. We have landscaping proposed throughout the area, which we will highlight at the end. There is a small footprint of work within Coastal Bank, approximately 26 linear feet, that's associated with a wooden wall that's currently degrading. The plan is to remove that stretch of wall and renaturalize the area as well as continue invasive species management in that area. If this wall was left, we think that it would just continue to deteriorate and then affect the resource areas downslope. So removing that and renaturalizing is definitely a pro. I do realize that is work within the coastal bank, but it's definitely an improvement. I already talked about the erosion controls. So work is not, I want to highlight that work is not proposed closer to the resource area than existing development. The goal of this project is to redevelop existing structures to the extent practical within existing foundations. The work closest to the resource area is that wall and renaturalization, which is definitely a pro for the resource area just to get any impervious area removed. The whole project represents a reduction of 257 square feet of impervious area within buffer zone to the resource area. And so that is because we are proposing plantings and everything is over an existing disturbed area. If our landscape architect would like to take over just to talk briefly about the plantings, because that's a huge part of this project. Here we
Caitlin,
have.
could you just point to the area where impervious will be removed?
Yes,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had the same question. Thank you.
I'd have to confirm with the engineer, I think, because he's the one who did the calculations, but I can definitely provide that.
Okay,
I
thank you.
believe that part of that would have been removing the wooden wall. Other than that, I would have to confirm with him what he included in that calculation. But we can definitely get that information for you. But that is all I had for you guys. If anyone else from the project team would like to add anything, otherwise we can open it up to questions from the commission. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the commission?
Was there going to be a discussion about the plantings, or were you going to hand it off to someone else to talk about the plantings?
Yeah, it looks like John Pate raised his hand. Can he be allowed to speak?
I clicked the unmute button, so you should be able to.
Speak up, John.
Thank you very much. This is John Pate, landscape architect for the project. To answer your previous question about where is the impervious being removed, Caitlin, could you zoom into that area that you were zoomed in earlier?
Of course.
Right in front of the addition, proposed addition. There previously was a bluestone patio between the spot grades 53.00 and 52.85. So that rectangular space was all previously paved.
Thank you.
And we just pulled up the bluestone paving for the construction access.
So how will that be treated when it's finished?
So, good question. That area and then all the area that has a light hatch across it is all to be a gravel garden proposed. So it was a typical lawn and an irrigated lawn outside of that paved terrace. And we're proposing a lot of native plants in that area with some casual gravel paths, but the whole entire area would be a gravel garden.
Great, thank you. Anything else we should know about replanting or new planting?
The other proposed areas are replacing kind, essentially. The turf area off to the west is the exact limits that it currently, or that it was. Those are to be reinstalled, proposed to be reinstalled exactly as they were. No additions into the bank area there. And then off to the east side, that's reestablished a meadow there.
Thank you. And was any thought given to making part or all of the area you're removing, the concrete pad and the paved area, into some form of pervious pavement?
The half of that is like a granite cobble. And so that area is semi-pervious.
I see. No mortaring, just
Correct.
loose laid.
Yep. So that's intended just to be reinstalled as is.
And when are you hoping to accomplish this project?
As soon as possible.
Okay. That's not a surprising answer at all.
Yeah.
Well, I for one could benefit from walking around this. It's a complicated enough set of small changes that in total it's a fairly large amount of work inside the buffer zone and a little bit of work on the resource itself. Anyone else interested?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I would also like to see it. I want to understand this old wooden wall and what's going to be involved to remove that, because it looks like it's on a pretty steep grade, and I don't know what it was for, but that looks like it is the one area that's particularly within the zone that we need to be conscious of.
Those walls, there's two walls there. This is John Pate again. Those are two walls there that were, I don't know, they were installed by a previous owner for landscape. There's not really anything, honestly, that's growing very well in them. And the wall is, it's a two-tiered wall so that the grade could be leveled out for that planting. And the walls are failing.
And are they structural? Are they retaining soil?
They are retaining some soil, yes. So the intent of operation there would be accessing it from the high side, the house side, and remove the soil and remove the wood timbers and restore the bank to its previous grade.
Good. Jim?
Thanks. Do you have an estimate of how much material you're gonna move on the landscaping side? I mean, some you say you're taking out and putting back. And second, I assume there's more work being done inside the house. So is there a staging ground somewhere outside that has to be addressed?
All staging is proposed within the chain link fence that Caitlin mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And I don't have a calculation of what specifically was your question regarding the volume of material?
Just curious about how much material is being taken out. We're talking, you know, it just helps me get an order of magnitude of the work. I mean, I
Is
understand
this-
what you described, but
Sure. Is this at the walls that we were talking about?
yeah,
In the
all the
resource area?
landscaping. Well, you also mentioned the bluestone. I don't know if that's being hauled out or just stored and then reinstalled.
Yes, part of it, the bluestone patio was removed. Some of it will be reused in various locations within the 100-foot setback, but just not in that location. Yeah. And then in terms of the soil volume at the timber walls, those walls are both of those walls are like about 16 inches tall. And I'm guessing I haven't measured them, so I'm guessing they're around 15 feet long, something like that, curving around.
So just to be clear, you're saying that the cobbles, for instance, when they're removed, will be stored nearby
Yes,
until you can place them back. And obviously, when you demo the concrete pad, that'll be removed from the site.
yes, exactly. In addition to the house, the landscape is also of that era. This area was, some of the trees are even before 1902. So we do have construction fencing, 6-foot high construction fencing around the landscape to protect the resource area and to protect all the existing planting.
Good. Arnold?
Yes, I know that we focused on the retaining walls that are closest to the resource area. Are there any other, so we've talked about an extensive project here. What are the areas where we would expect to see the most short-term disturbance, removal, regrading, and are all the areas outside of that regrading of the two retaining walls, is everything going to be restored to the original depth, if you will, or volume?
Very good question. Where the retaining walls were out in the resource, or where they are in the resource area, those are intended just to go back to the natural slope of the bank there. All the other grades within the proposed work are to match existing. No change to grades.
Thank you.
And no change to where the drainage is going. Drainage, of course, would go
Okay.
away from the bank.
Mr. Frank?
Hi, good evening. I'm Thomas Frank. I'm the owner. I am not a construction professional. However, I can comment on staging, which is primarily taking place in the many garages that we have, and also on another property that I own.
Okay, thank you. That is helpful. If there are no other comments or questions from the commission, how about the public? Any questions or comments on 195 Summer Street?
Use the raised
Nice.
hand icon if you would wish to speak.
I am seeing none. So if it's okay with you, we will schedule a site visit and continue this to the next meeting, which is September 8th.
Very good.
Can someone make that motion for me?
I'd like to make that motion.
Good. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? David?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
and I'll make that unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, concise presentation of a complicated project, many moving parts. When would be a good time for a visit? We have developed a habit of doing this first thing on a weekend, like early-ish on a Saturday. Is that possible?
That should be fine as long as the Mr. Frank approves.
All right. I got a thumb up from Mr. Frank. That's good. And commissioners, is this Saturday feasible?
Very early. I have a 9 o'clock meeting on Saturday.
Okay, well, none of us have to travel very far, but I'm conscious that Caitlin, you might need to. Could we meet at 8?
I would actually be out of town this weekend, but I could see if the engineer would be able to meet. Otherwise, it would have to wait for the following Saturday. I'm sorry.
On Saturday. No worries. This is the next Saturday is the 15th, and then the following Saturday.
No, that's
The
this Saturday.
22nd. Yeah.
Okay, if you can arrange for an understudy or substitute, that would be great. And you'll let us know if 8 o'clock is workable.
Yes. Yep.
Yep, we'll bring the donuts.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Okay, so that would be Saturday, August 15th, 8 a.m., 195 Summer Street. And if members of the public or neighbors or abutters want to attend, are you open to that or not? That's a question for Mr. Frank.
Yes. Yeah.
Speak.
He'd like to speak. Bethany, help. Pass the mic to Mr. Frank.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
As long as the entire population of Manchester doesn't turn up. Yes.
At
Yeah,
8
we'll
o'clock
put a-
on Saturday morning, it isn't going to happen.
We'll put a strict upper limit on it of a handful of gawkers. Good. Okay, thank you, one and all. Caitlin,
Thank you.
Tom, Frank. We now take up a request for certificate of compliance at the same address from DEP file 39-839. Same owner, 195 Summer Street Realty Trust. And this is a project recorded in 2021. In the order of conditions, authorized construction of a pool and associated structures within the buffer zone to Coastal Bank per the Wetlands Protection Act and our wetlands bylaw. Bethany, have you been out there to see completion and stability and such? We can't hear you, Bethany.
Sorry, my internet was frozen. Can you repeat that?
Yes, have you been to the site to look at compliance with the order and stability of the site?
Yes, I did go on the site last week, I believe.
Yep.
With Caitlin was there along with the head gardener and the homeowner, and everything was to plan and everything was stable. It was a very nice pool area.
Good. And do we have a letter from an engineer in the package?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, any questions, comments from the commission? Or from the public? This is a compliance with a previous order for 195 Summer Street. Mr. Frank.
I can note that it won a Bullfinch Award.
That's not bad at all.
It's first time out of the box. See you soon.
Congratulations. All right,
Okay.
shall I hear a motion, please, to issue a complete certificate of compliance for 195 Summer?
I so move.
I'll make a motion
Thank you.
that we, okay, so moved.
Do you second, David?
I'll be the second. Thank you, Marty.
Super duper. All those in favor? Gordon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Arnold?
Aye.
Even though you weren't on the commission, you're empowered to vote on this. And I am an aye as well. So it is unanimous. Thank you, and
Thank
have a
you.
good evening, Caitlin, Tom, Frank, and
I'm here for the next one too. So
very well. Don't move. Don't touch that dial. Here we go to another request for compliance. This one at 17 Eagle Head, DEP file 39-891. James and Grace Hoffman. That's strangely familiar. Bethany, anything to report about these?
I went
scoundrels?
after my site visit from 195 straight to Eagle Head with Caitlin to check on the plantings in the rain gardens, and they all looked great. And to plan.
Excellent. And do we have an as-built signed off on?
yes, I can share that. Give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Here is our as-built.
Mm-hmm.
No deviations to note. I reviewed the plantings in 2025 as well as 2026, and I do feel like they are above the 85% survivorship threshold that you guys have. The plantings look lovely.
Excellent.
More donuts.
Any editorial comments from the homeowner?
Well, we can do the donuts after, 195 at my place, so you can see it in the flesh.
That's great. We can bushwhack, can't we, from one to the other? As long as you're not worried about ticks. That
Yeah.
is.
Poison ivy, sharks, ticks.
Yep.
I'll make a
Rapid
motion that
fear.
we issue the certificate of compliance for Mass DEP 039-0891 for the Hoffmans.
Second. All those in favor? David?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Arnold?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. And I think we'll let you stand on the sidelines, Jim.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
We'll see you in spirit on Saturday.
Yes, yep. Bye, guys.
Okay, folks, that was a productive use of time. Thank you for attention, and we've disposed of the order of conditions for 19 Proctor, so we're into the odds and ends period, beginning with minutes from July 21. Any changes or corrections not already made on SharePoint? Good. I saw a couple of people had been in there, so I know it's been inspected. I changed the spelling of Woodholm to Woodholm, corrected that, but that was it. Otherwise, very good. Thank you, whoever did it and corrected it.
Hello to Kendall.
Go Kendall. Could I hear a motion to accept the minutes for July 21?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? David?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Marty?
I should have spoken up, but I'll say aye.
Arnold?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you.
I
Other
did,
new
if you don't
business?
mind, I did have a change, Steve. I sent a note to Bethany regarding. And so,
Okay.
but I didn't make the change directly on SharePoint. Didn't realize I could.
Yeah,
So-
Bethany, do you prefer us to make, correct misspellings and gender assignments and things like that? Or tell you?
Yes, the SharePoint is open to all.
So go in there and have a blast.
I just wanted to get my name right.
That's
Good.
yes.
Other new and enforcement issues. I'll raise one of those, which is I had asked Bethany to inquire under what authority the Harbors Point Condo Association, which is where Dunkin' Donuts and the pharmacy are, had paved the very end of their parking lot, which was muddy dirt and is in buffer zone, if not resource. And she agreed that that probably called for some kind of permission from the Concom and asked the owner and received a response from the owner's attorney. Just to paraphrase, the attorney said, "We don't need any permission. We have an order of conditions from 1995, I think, that enables us to pave this and to fix it. It needs fixing." And Bethany then inquired at DEP whether something more than 3 years old could in fact still be used, and was told, of course not. Or as a condition lasts 3 years and only 3 years. And then any significant amount of work, even if it was maintenance, would require some kind of permission from the commission. So she communicated that to the attorney, and he dissented even more vigorously. And I'm not sure what happened after that, Bethany.
So we are working with the attorney to figure out the proper filing. Everything is going smoothly as we are explaining properly that they need to file. So I think it will all be figured out. And Mark and I went there today to inspect the site. And Mark, if you want to add anything, you can. And I feel like it will be figured out. So I think I've got it under control for now.
Well, congratulations on tamping down the flames on that one. Mark, anything to add? You'll need to unmute.
Okay, it appears that the repaving was within the same area that they did before. They installed clean gravel between the paving and the railroad spur, kind of to act as a drainage to capture any sheet flow drainage. And most of the parking lot does go drain into an existing drain system. So we talked to Adam today. Sent him a PDF of we now have the scanner up and running, so the large format printer. So we sent him a copy of the 93 plan, and he was going to talk to the owner. He again tried to make his case that he didn't have to file anything, but I believe they're going to file a request for determination. So,
Bravo. Gordon, you had a comment?
Separate issue. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. But we are
Well,
working with him. So I think it will end up being okay.
Excellent. Keep it up. Go ahead, Gordon.
I had noticed on a walk on School Street the other day that there had been some work done right near Sawmill Brook. It looks like maybe town or something. I'm not sure. But it looked like there was cement residue in the roadway where they had done some repairs, and then you could track that cement residue down to the drain and right into Sawmill Brook, and there were plants that were had some drippings on them and stuff in the brook. And I don't know if that's something maybe we can reach out to DEP and find out, I mean, DPW and find out if that was work done by the town or a contractor or something like that. Yeah.
Gordon, if you can email me
Mhm.
like a approximate location, I can investigate Thursday.
Okay,
sure.
great. Thank you.
Was it near the culvert, Gordon?
It's right at the brook there at Sawmill Brook
Yeah.
on School Street.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just something.
Was there any
good to
kind
have-
of protection on the storm drain? Any kind of?
I didn't notice any.
Okay.
And the work had already been done by the time I saw anything, so I don't know who did it or yeah, what the
Thanks.
scope was. Yeah.
Arnold.
So this was stepping a little bit from the parking lot, but not going back to that subject, but more procedural because I'm new. So especially with this maybe older or legacy orders of conditions, how do we communicate or ensure that if there's a longevity to these orders that they're clearly communicated and that I guess people who receive these or are holding onto these orders don't assume that they move on for go on forever. Is there something that it's clearly stated in our current orders or?
Yes. When they receive their order of conditions, it states in the state form that they're only valid for 3 years, and that's when they get their certificate of compliance. And the certificate of compliance wraps up the order of conditions like a bow, like a package, and that clears it off their deed, essentially. So if they won't have any trouble selling their house. And we've ran into issues where people, like from the 1990s plans, when they're trying to sell their home now, they have an open order of conditions that they never close. That's the issue that we're facing right now.
Thank you.
Good question. Jim?
Another procedural. So when we are going through this review of School Street, and you get a lot of comments from the public, either at our meeting or written comments, some of them, professional expertise, and they have good points. How did and some of them have maybe less relevant points, but how do all of these get addressed or do we have to take them up, or Bethany, do you kind of systematically have to work through these things? How's it going to work?
For this bigger project, the Zero School Street, I think Steve can answer about how the commission addresses it, but procedurally, this bigger project, I actually created with Tiffany a separate little tab under 40B proposals, and all the public comments are uploaded there for everyone to review. The public, the applicant, you guys. It's also in your meeting packets, but I think Steve can answer how the commission responds to these abutter and public comments.
Yes. Well, when we get a, intelligent, helpful comment, as we did from MECT pertaining to peer review, Henry and Bethany and I review it and discuss the pros and cons. They were, in essence, recommending that we subdivide the peer review into 2 or 3 separate tasks and hire specialists in each of those areas, as they had done in preparing their submissions and testimony to ZBA and Housing Appeals Committee. And we concluded that as a practical matter, we weren't going to be able to muster experts who would focus on a given specialty, partly because the small community of experts who know all this stuff have largely already been involved in this project. So that's an inhibition, limitation rather. And secondly, if we can find a firm that can provide under the umbrella of its staff all of these capabilities with specialized talent, that would be our preference, particularly given the way the town contracts. So Ty and Bond met that standard. Weston and Sampson almost met it. And frankly, nobody else would step forward to bid, either because they were precluded by prior work, or they were apprehensive about how long this might take and the possibility of future litigation and whatnot. So we made a practical and tactical decision. We didn't think there was enough reason to bring that question for debate to the commission, but certainly as we move forward with this and begin to get data back from the peer reviewer, we're going to do more to follow some of the intelligent suggestions from third parties.
Okay.
And I particularly tonight's suggestion that we try to focus our attention at future meetings, that sounded very sensible to me. So rather than try to update everything each time, we might focus on stormwater standards and management generally at one meeting, vernal pool and habitat protection, and then other issues like the delineation being 4 years old and the cold water fishery status of Sawmill Brook.
But aren't we limited in how much time we can take to review?
I don't know that we are. Mark or Bethany, do we have a hard stop on our review of this matter
No,
in years?
you obviously want to be like courteous and understand that you can't stretch it out forever. But unless that you actually close the hearing, then no, you don't have a deadline. But if you close it, which you have to be sure about your decision and have the draft order of conditions ready, because then you have 21 business days to submit to give the applicant their order of conditions. So if you do not close it, there's no deadline, but you just want to be mindful of people's time and schedules.
Yep. And in practical terms, Jim, if push came to shove, an applicant can always say, no, I do not want to continue this further. I want a decision tonight. And then we have to close the hearing and render an order. That's only happened once in my decade.
Well, I guess what I was trying to get at too was if someone comes with a legitimate point of something they feel was not in the proposal and not covered accurately, do you give the proposer a chance to kind of explain or rebut the accusation before it automatically goes to our peer review? Because we can't, saddle everything on the peer review, otherwise we'll have to renegotiate the contract. And some of these things that the applicant should be able to address, and if they can't, then that becomes an open issue.
So maybe that is something each individual member, I think, has to evaluate. Whether comments from the public are necessarily relevant to the just because a applicant or their representative makes a case for a particular impact or problem with the plans. The board may feel it's not within the scope of what you're supposed to be doing. Sometimes the board may feel that it's already been discussed and reviewed and that further analysis is not necessary. So again, it's kind of a board decision as a group, kind of how to address that. Here with conservation, as opposed to like planning board, where you're looking at multiple bigger, issues. Your issues are related to, now, of course, we broke it down into several smaller pieces, like the vernal pool, like the fishery, but you're kind of limited, within the scope. So again, that's kind of for the board to decide.
Yeah.
And
I just didn't want it to be ping pong. Like if someone raises a legitimate issue, you give the applicant a chance to get their, respond. And so we're not kind of in between. We can take that response and let them do that work rather than our peer.
but the work for the peer reviewer is not to be dictated by the abutters or any other consultant on working on their behalf.
Okay.
The work is dictated by the Conservation Commission. So if someone makes a case for an additional review of something, it's up to the commission to decide whether to ask the peer reviewer to do it or not. You may feel it's not necessary. Let's say they want every tree mapped on the entire site, something really ridiculous, but something like that. And they say, we expect, and they make a case that 50% of the trees are going to die. You have to make a judgment, is that reasonable to ask the peer reviewer to do that and expand the scope of their contract? Or is that just like, because you are going to have people, because of the controversial nature of the project, try and come up with things to delay the project. So,
Well, let me just ask it a different way then.
Okay.
I'm trying to say it's not the peer review that if someone says from the public, or as Steve did on the call tonight, that, we kind of like to know how the wastewater works at the same time. And now the applicant can come back and say, okay, we'll give you that. Or the applicant can come back and say, we don't have to do that. It can be staged in two NOIs. It's just, I'm trying to understand how many times you let the applicant have a chance to address things brought up outside the peer review.
Yeah, well, if it's outside the scope of the commission's authority to review under the notice of intent, the applicant can answer if they know the answer, but it's really kind of like I said, outside of the scope. So, boards kind of have to stay within their lane, whether it's planning, zoning, conservation, etc. So, it's if they voluntarily answer the question or say we expect we're going to do this, that's up to them. So
Okay.
I don't think you can legally compel them to do so.
Right. Jim, I got a more likely scenario for you, which is to say, suppose somebody gives us credible evidence that there's a rare or endangered species on this site, a blue-spotted salamander or a particular kind of bird or plant. We could ask the peer reviewer, if they have the capability on staff, to review the applicant's submissions. They did a habitat study which covered and said there are no such things on this site. So under that heading, they could do that review. They might well ask for more money to do that because it isn't specified in the request or the proposal. But, that's one thing that might pop up depending on, how thorough the bird watchers are, for example.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Marty.
Yeah, I have a specific.
Uh-oh. We can't hear you. Marty, I think you hit your mute.
You're mute.
I got it. Now I got it. So my question, I have a specific that's related to exactly this issue. Greg Crockett sent a letter to Bethany, which she forwarded to us, and it raises some specific issues that certainly need to be addressed. One of them being the sidewalk that is not shown in the plans and that is required, but it raised a few other things, and so I was surprised he didn't speak up at the meeting. He was here. But how is that letter from a credible source with some specifics that should be addressed can we ask the peer reviewer to have a look at that? It adds another document. They only have 3 in their proposal. How does that kind of thing get communicated to the peer reviewer for comment, or do we have to do that more directly? How does that get handled?
Yeah, we have to do that. You've put your finger on it. And it has to be within our jurisdiction, which in general sidewalks aren't. But if the sidewalk is within a buffer zone, or if it affects the stormwater flowage, I would argue it's pertinent.
It seems to me that the ability to put the road in is going to require not just the sidewalk, but areas to the outer edge of the road that are definitely going to affect the downhill, and that area where work related vehicles will have to be, where stuff is going to go, that's just not addressed in the plan. And I don't understand how we insist that the scope of it's around the edges of our zone, but it seems to me it's going to affect the wetlands below it because
I
they're
think
not
you're right
allowing
on.
for large enough space.
Yeah, I think you're right on. It's one reason that Henry and I asked that the revised scope include analysis of the construction period and the site preparation period, protection of the resources we guard, for exactly that reason, because it isn't well detailed. And so far, the applicant, when they're queried about this at previous ZBA or housing appeal, have said, that's premature. We'll get to that when we get a building permit, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And
so there's a
that's
whole
not
lot of things
sufficient.
unresolved, that they haven't addressed. And
so the peer reviewer can recommend to us that we get them to divulge exactly, for instance, how they're going to prevent erosion during the site prep and construction process. And then the peer reviewer can review that submission by the applicant. It's part of the back and forth we were talking about before, and recommending that it happen, through Mark and Bethany. So this could be a lengthy process, depending on how many of those issues come up, but that's why we're here.
Also, Marty, any abutter comment that I receive, I do forward to the applicant and the team. So Scott Goddard and team do have all the information, and it's also posted on the website for everyone to review and read.
Okay.
Good.
Steve, couple questions.
Yes, go ahead, David.
First one's procedural. We talked about open meeting law violations. If I were to talk to you or to Henry about a particularly troublesome issue that I don't think the developer has handled properly, but we're discussing this issue one-on-one, there's only 2 of us discussing it. That's not a majority of the committee, and therefore I don't think that's a violation of the open meeting rule. Do I understand that correctly?
That's how we've operated since I asked that question 10 years ago. That 2 is okay, 3 is a crowd. And I think that's only practical because 3 is getting toward quorum.
Okay, getting toward quorum.
You can't just make it like a chain reaction.
I see.
Okay. Yeah, you can't talk to Steve and then talk to Henry and go down the line is what you're saying. So, I mean, if there's a legitimate thing that you think of and you go, I should talk to Steve, he's the chair, or Henry is the other chair, then you can do that. But, to see whether it's a significant enough issue that you think you should talk to Bethany, and we should convey, let's say, to the applicant or to our consulting engineer, depending on what the issue is. Or maybe it's like something that we if we're outlining the next meeting, you know, an item that we want to make sure is that we discuss. So, you know, may not quite rise to the level of we need it addressed immediately. But we have to have the commission discuss it as a whole. So that would be the way of handling those types of things.
And I have to
And
say, I appreciate these questions greatly. These are things that bugged me and I didn't bother to ask for a while. So ask away.
Here's another
and
one.
just to add on that, David, anyone on the commission, feel free to email myself or Mark for any questions or support or help, because we're not voting members of the commission, so it does not violate the open meeting law.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And as you can tell, it's not Mark's first rodeo. So that could be
Right.
very valuable.
Well, on that same, if I get another question, this is not directly related, but we've been discussing these issues for what, 2 years now? And various committees have been discussing them. I've already heard the applicant respond to at least one of our questions, dismissing it in essence by saying, oh, this has been previously discussed and answered at previous committee meetings or appearances. But that may be true, but it doesn't satisfy my curiosity and my understanding and I don't want to be embarrassed because I'm not aware of every discussion that's taken place with the ZBA or with a judicial appeals board. So in other words, how free am I to ask questions of the applicant and expect a detailed response?
I think even if it's been something that was discussed at the Housing Appeals Committee or the zoning board, if it's related to Conservation Commission jurisdiction as it relates to the application and what they're proposing to do, then yes, you can. So let's say they did a study and someone says, oh, yeah, I just remembered they did a study of, you know, the birds, let's say. You can request a copy of that if they haven't submitted that. Or like he mentioned just tonight, Steve had asked about the cut and fill analysis, and he said, well, they did one for the zoning board.
Right.
You know, so that
Exactly.
you can request that as long as it's pertaining to this. Now, let's say the Housing Appeals Committee, there's no sidewalk proposed, and the Housing Appeals Committee said, because Martha mentioned that, said you don't need a sidewalk there. That is outside of your scope. You cannot require them to put in a sidewalk. This is not the Zoning Board or the Housing Appeals Committee or the Conservation Commission. If it's shown on the plan, then you can evaluate how they build it, not the construction methods, but how they protect the down gradient when they construct it. So again, you got to stay within that scope.
Or as Marty referred to, we could discuss the water runoff on the proposed sidewalk if it's built, which hasn't been mentioned. Okay.
Yes, and the sidewalk actually crosses a wetland buffer zone.
Right.
Okay. So we have some jurisdiction over it if in fact there's going to be a sidewalk. Arnold, you've been patient. Speak up.
I think it's a little bit more of the same. We've asked questions about the sewer and water connections, and the same thing. If it's unclear where that's physically going to take place, what procedurally, if now we have another area that's outside of our current proposal and could be somewhere else, and again, could go through some protected areas. So what would prompt us to review this? Is this considered a separate proposal, separate application? Or would it be appended to this application if we find that it's within a potentially protected area?
Good question. As I understand it, we have to make a decision on this NOI to approve with conditions or deny. as it stands. So while information about potential connections and extensions of sewer and water will be useful, we can't make our decision depend on them. We can condition, as I understand it, or if we approve it, we can condition that no work of any kind be done until that portion of the project is permitted.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense because it's a big process they're going to have to do and very expensive.
Right.
And condition on a sewer hookup as opposed to a septic field.
Correct. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no argument for staging here. You need the sewer hookup, you need the water hookup before you can get a certificate of occupancy. So the project depends on them. This is helpful. Any other questions for chewing on there? I want to return.
Is
Yeah.
Is it advisable for us to make a determination before we know where the sewer and the water lines are going, how they're going to be brought into the project? Since we've got vernal pools on either side of this project. They could be crossing the vernal pool or an area close to it.
Right. You're right. We asked DEP for guidance on this, and DEP said you got to play the hand you're dealt. So if they've left it off the NOI, even if it's for arbitrary reasons, you have to evaluate the NOI you're given. I also put the question to the education folks at MACC, and they said, well, it's really up to you. We encourage commissions to require that the full project be planned before an order is approved or denied. And we consider that it's within your power to turn down a portion of the project because the rest is too impactful or information is lacking about its impact. So that's a pretty dramatic difference between two people I would regard as authoritative. Of course, DEP is our boss in some respects, so we will follow what they say.
I think the argument there is that, they put all the resources into this portion of the project, and if they can't get past this, they don't want to have to spend the money to do another complicated analysis. But both would be required to get it done, but they want to see proof that, they made it past the first stage. I think that's the argument.
And they haven't laid any groundwork. They don't have ever for any of the potential routes to extend the sewer. So there's been no delineation. There's a lot of speculative elements to it right now.
Well, Steve, you just made a significant statement. If we don't have all the facts to make a decision, then
that's the basic ground for denial, insufficient information.
Okay. That's an important statement.
No deliberation right now.
Yes. Hypothetically, town council has recommended that if we consider that an important element of our decision factors, we should not make it the primary one.
Okay.
And I think that's because he looks forward, as he has many times before, to going to court and having to defend a runaway conservation commission that has arguably exceeded its authority. Can we switch for a moment to floating docks? Because I just need to ventilate here my feeling that we're going to see a lot more of these because everybody wants a dock, everybody wants a pool, everybody wants a dock.
Right.
And people who live on the coast have the resources for those kinds of things, so they tend to be coming to us. And I talked to the old man of Manchester Mooring and Docking, Bob Reed, who said, "Oh yeah, nobody put those things out, 50 years ago. That was a stupid idea. They just, they sit in the mud all the time." So I suspect that, we're looking at a rising trend of these things. And sooner or later, we're going to have to face the fact that they are impacting land under ocean. And we don't have performance standards. We just have what I'll call common practice or conventional wisdom from, the guys who are not unbiased, the contractors.
Yeah, vendor promotion. I mean, I think your comment about whether we allow a boat to be tied up is pretty key, because they will, and just like the neighbor, they sit there in the mud.
Right, but
So
now that somebody's reminded me that there's an enforcement mechanism, which is to politely ask the harbor master not to renew their permit.
Well, but can we talk to the harbor master about our concern about boats tied up to moorings and say, there's one thing to approve a dock, it's another thing to approve a boat sitting in the mud. So if he allows that, maybe he doesn't have that jurisdiction.
Could be.
They're using the boat to get to their mooring. That's what they claim. So where's that boat going to go if it's not going to just sit there tied up?
Right.
Yeah. So I have a dock that sits on the mud, and most of the people I know or see around who have docks that are tidal like that, use it to keep a skiff or a whaler or something like that, 14, 15-foot boat. It's like if to tool around or to get out to a bigger boat. Most people, I don't know what boats were on the dock next door because I didn't go on the site visit, but
21 with front Roth with an outrigger engine, so probably 25 feet in length, and a whaler, 17-foot whaler.
So most people won't leave bigger boats sitting in the mud, like a 21-footer, usually like 15, 16 feet is the most you see. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right? And but I guess my point would be is I would be curious if DEP or some other agency has done some sort of analysis on the impact to the resources in clams and other things around docks where boats are kept like that. Not a big marina, but individual docks. And so I think that might be the first step, would be to see if there's any documentation of negative impacts, such as that, or maybe the fact that they're generally smaller, 20 feet, and they get removed in the winter, the impacts are limited. So I would suggest that that's something we research first.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
I was trying to
let me bring up
research
an
this. Oh,
example.
sorry. Yeah.
2 doors down from me, Randy Wood has a flotation device at the end of his dock. His dock probably goes into it probably would, if his boat stayed in the water, it might very well rest on the bottom. We always thought this thing was incredibly ugly. I had no idea why he did it. I thought he was just trying to protect it from stuff growing on the bottom. I'm going to guess now that he has done that because otherwise the boat would be on the bottom. So when he has a float that he keeps, the boat goes up onto this black frame thing.
It's a cradle. Yeah.
When he comes in, and when he pushes it out again, it's an ugly thing, but it solves this specific problem. So,
while adding about a ton, or in his case, 2 tons of weight to his float.
Yeah, it's a frame that's designed. It's a cradle to hold the boat up out of.
And he can motor up. He can motor up into it, can't he, Marty?
Yes, he can, but perhaps not at low tide.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably not. He's got twin 400s on a 25-foot high-speed boat. So he's got a lot of material there.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't know why he put that thing in. It never occurred to me that it might be because the Concom required it. Does anybody know?
I doubt that, but I don't know. I assumed it was to keep the barnacles off.
I did too, but you can use paint to do that.
When I
So-
researched this, it just seemed like Massachusetts has great deference to property owners being able to use their water resources, and
Yes.
that there wasn't going to be a lot of grounds to oppose a dock, particularly when other people are doing it. I think that to me, the simplest solution is to get the harbor master to put a 10-foot length limit or something on boats moored to docks, because I don't think we would be successful in trying to ban docks.
Yeah, I agree. What I was thinking actually, Jim, and I'm way out over my skis here, but if we made it known to the consultants that henceforth we're going to require much more rigorous construction techniques to keep the floats off the surface, i.e. pilings with stops, as we have in the one case in Whittier Cove. And that was voluntary. We didn't require that. The homeowner realized that the thing was going to sit askew, twice a day when the tide went out, and went through the trouble of Chapter 91 permitting for the pilings, the expense of having the pilings installed, the difficulty it creates for removal, seasonal removal. But if people knew that those were the new rules of the game, they could make decisions accordingly. I took this up with Mona and Dave Tolliver this afternoon, and they made a quick call to Ramsey, who said, "Oh, that's just a terrible idea." Said, number one, you're going to take 2 years and millions of dollars to get, well, a lot of money to get your Chapter 91 and other permits. And then we have to install 4 pilings, which is going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. And all for what?
And that's disruptive to the environment as well. So,
Well, it's a one-time event with vibration. So, we permit it all the time for the marinas. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, but I'm just saying we wouldn't be banning docks. We would just be changing the rules of the game so that people would know, instead of it being a $5,000, $10,000 project, it's a $50,000 project. And if they want to do it, great. Otherwise, they should buy a house that has deep water.
Well, Steve, I think the problem is a lot of people can do it. And what we want to avoid is a spider web of long docks off of those shallow areas, particularly out in Smith Point area, where they can be cutting down the view and the width of the harbor with some of these docks. And now we have a proposal for a 60-footer here, but it could be a 100-footer somewhere else. So
you're right.
Let's take a look at other harbors around the state and see what other communities have done.
Yeah.
The other thing you get to do is figure out, like, in other words, what's the problem you're trying to solve? Is there a problem to begin with? So just because people are putting in docks, is it creating a problem? So that's what you have to answer that question first. I think anytime I work on regulations, it's no matter what it is, it's what's the problem are we trying to solve? And is it really a problem? Do we need to write new regulations? Do we need to restrict this? Or is it just a one-time thing and, someone brought it up because they saw it in another town? So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Arnold.
Yeah. So I'm still kind of reconciling with just our mandate versus the process versus what we can reasonably expect. Because and I was no pun intended, stuck on the whole bottom of the dock. I couldn't help it. I'm an engineer, right? Speaking from an engineer. First of all, I'm glad that someone, I think it was you, Marty, raised the whole point. This thing is going to stick. We have 4 small area footings. It likely would have stuck on the mud. So a lot of it is just pure mechanics of the weight of the dock distributed on a certain area, load capacity, load bearing of the mud, etc. But mud is very dynamic, right? It could be there's a range of load bearings that can exist, and it can also change year to year depending on how things move. But in this process, there was really we had a proposal or a counter proposal to add the skids. They happen to be 6 inches wide. Surface area does matter. And I feel that it's one of those things where it's kind of it could be that I think it's going to ensure that the dock stays above surface, but it could also be that it's in the hairy middle that it could not be enough, and maybe they need to add a couple more inches on width to ensure that they're on the right side of the equation. But in this process, and I haven't really gone a deep dive into regulation to see either any guidelines. I understand our role is to minimize impact, right, to the surface. It would be ideal if these proposals or applications came in with some expected level of study of either the qualities of the surface, or at the very least working off a known range, saying, all right, if we expect that this is a known range of properties of the mud, here's the weight of our dock, including the gangway, and here's how we addressed it. Right now, we're just going by the experience of the person who designed the dock, who feels that maybe 6-inch planks are good enough. So it kind of left it up to us to say, okay, do we think it's enough? But I wish we could expect more, a little bit more math. It's not that hard, and that could be ideally a norm that we can apply and make it a little bit more uniform. Because the weight of the dock does matter, and as well, and the surface area.
I like that. I like that approach, particularly because there's already a lot of arithmetic involved in designing the flotation, and a lot of tables and formulas and accepted equations for figuring out how much buoyancy and where that buoyancy sits relative to the weight of the thing. So that they do, Ramsey, I'm sure, goes through that carefully, because you want to make sure that it will remain buoyant once it's floating. But when you get to the mud, it's just sort of guesswork.
Yeah.
Well, there's no question that
I was recommending that Arnold take a few days off and create the Oyala mud density instrument that anybody could use to figure out what's the weight bearing capacity of the mud they're going to drop their float on. And he laughed at me. Remarkable. He's still laughing.
Mark asked what we're trying to, solve or protect. And I think, to me, these tidal flats are really important areas for shorebirds. So you clutter them up with a dock every 50 feet and all that activity that comes with it, and you're going to be eliminating a lot of good habitat.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Okay. What are towns' dock procedures relating to conservation commissions?
Yeah, you should be able to get some intelligence on that.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to review the MACC due invoice?
Yes. Well, what do we owe them?
Let me pull it up. I got a refreshed one. Sorry, there's a different number, but this is the correct number. So let me just pull it up.
Remember, this provides each of us membership that enables us to go to their classes and reference all their documents.
Oh, yeah.
You see? Yes.
Yes.
So it is $659 expense. Yes, it's $659.
And I'm correct that includes all 7 commissioners and you?
Yes.
Dynamite. I think that's money well spent.
Are we looking for a motion to approve this?
Yep.
Yes, because your
Oh.
money.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Thank you. All in favor? Jim?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Arnold?
Aye.
And I'll make that unanimous. Thank you, Bethany.
Yes.
May I
Anything
And
else on your list? Marty?
I have a question. I have no idea what the budget is for this commission.
I will find it and send it to all. I remember we discussed it previously. I will find
So-
it again.
Like the way you think,
Elusive
Marty, it
subject.
comes up every time we have to vote on an
Very
expenditure.
elusive subject. So we have different bank accounts and reserve accounts, and we're bundled
under
now into land management.
So,
Sounds like the
so,
church.
Mark-
We have the same problem.
Mark has something to
Oh,
say.
he
Yeah.
might tell us. He might tell us.
So, so there's a land use budget that includes zoning, planning, conservation, and historic. So there's one budget for 4 boards. It is the sum of all the previous individual budgets plus some extra monies. You also have 2 accounts. One is a revolving account that you can use, which is your DEP funds, and that is somewhat limited in what you can spend it on. It has to be related to the act, enforcement of the act, education related to the act. So I'm not sure whether this is allowed to come out of this. I think Bethany can answer that question. And then there's another fund that you have used for, and you go to the finance committee every now and then to replenish it, and that allows you to for your conservation properties. So those are the 3 sources of funds.
Mark and I will send the exact sheet again to everybody. But I think because this is under education, I think it would be under the Wetlands Protection Act because that is an allowable use.
Yeah, and that's why it's in front of you. So
So
because-
there's like a bit of money when everyone does a filing. It's like a weird number. It's like 6750 that gets deposited when everyone does a filing into that revolving fund.
So the fees we collect from the applications.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, that's your share of
Exactly.
DEP.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we set our own fees for applications under the bylaw. And,
Yes.
the category that's been growing the fastest in the numbers I've looked at, that's purely ours, is beaver control because of new
Our
locations and
expenses. Yeah.
exactly.
Yes, so we have funds in our professional services budget to cover
The
your
beaver.
standard beaver control.
Yes.
Now, if we have to do some sort of major installation or repair, depending on the cost, we may have to budget for that in the next year's budget. But for just our standard contract and some other minor repairs, we have enough funds to cover that.
It's already allocated in the professional
Yes.
services fund.
Mhm.
Good
Because that's our
question, Jim.
biggest expense. Yes.
Anybody else have a inquiring minds want to know question? All right, any other matters not reasonably foreseen when we made the agenda? Well, David, as senior member, it falls to you.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second,
Second.
indicate your assent
Aye.
or objection.
Thanks, everyone.
Good job
you.
tonight. Thank you, everybody. See you
Thank
soon.
you.
I hope.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.